Dana put $8,000 into a food truck 2 years ago. By month 3, it was already losing money every single month. Dana kept going anyway, for 2 more years, adding more money almost every quarter just to keep it running. Here's the question that should have ended it in month 3, and didn't get asked honestly until year 2. If you didn't already own this truck, and someone offered you the exact same deal today, would you hand over the money to start it? Dana already knew the answer. Everyone circling this kind of decision already knows the answer. The knowing was never the problem. This is the sunk cost fallacy, and it is one of the most well-documented, most thoroughly studied biases in behavioral economics, and also one of the most expensive ones, because it doesn't just cost you the original amount. It costs you everything you keep adding afterward, trying to protect money that was already gone the moment you spent it. Here's the actual logic, stripped all the way down. Money you've already spent cannot be affected by any decision you make today. It's already spent, gone. Either way, regardless of what happens next, a rational decision should only ever weigh the future, what this costs from here, what it's likely to return from here, completely separate from what already went in before today. That's the entire principle. It sounds almost too obvious to need a name, and yet humans violate it constantly, predictably, in a way researchers can reproduce in a lab on command. In 1985, researchers Arkes and Blumer ran an experiment that's become one of the standard demonstrations of this bias. They gave people a hypothetical scenario. You've bought a non-refundable ticket for a weekend ski trip costing $100. Later, you find a better ski trip, $150, and you buy that one too, also non-refundable. Then you realize both trips are on the same weekend, and you can only go to one. Which one do you pick? Rationally, you'd pick the trip you'd enjoy more, the better one. That's it. The $100 is already spent either way. It cannot be recovered by choosing correctly. And yet the majority of people in the study chose the worst trip, specifically because it was more expensive, and walking away from the bigger sunk cost felt like the bigger loss, even though, financially, both amounts were already gone, identically. What makes this experiment so useful is how clean it is. There's no ambiguity, no real-world complication muddying the decision. Both tickets are already paid for. Neither can be refunded. The only variable that should matter is which trip is actually better. And the study stripped away every other factor specifically to isolate that one bias. People still got it wrong, consistently, in exactly the direction the sunk cost fallacy predicts, which is part of why this finding has held up and been replicated across so many different contexts since. This wasn't a fluke or a strange quirk of one small study. The same pattern shows up in massive, real-world decisions too. Governments have famously kept funding failing projects specifically because of how much had already been spent. The most well-known example being the Concorde supersonic jet program, funded jointly by 2 governments long after it was clear the plane would never be commercially profitable, continued specifically because canceling it would mean admitting the money already spent was wasted, which somehow felt worse than spending more to protect it. Economists still sometimes call this exact pattern the Concorde fallacy, named after a 2-government engineering project falling for the same trap as someone holding a $100 ski ticket. Here's what makes the sunk cost fallacy so specifically dangerous with money, compared to almost any other kind of bad decision. It doesn't just cause one bad choice. It actively recruits every future decision into defending the first one. Dana's food truck losing money in month 3 was a bad break. Dana's food truck still losing money in year 2, after 2 more years of additional investment, wasn't a bad break anymore. It was month 3's mistake, compounding, protected by a series of completely separate decisions that each felt, individually, like the responsible choice: don't give up, don't waste what's already been put in, push through. Every one of those later decisions felt like commitment. What it actually was, every time, was the exact same math error, repeated, with a slightly larger number attached each time. It's worth being specific about how those decisions actually got made, because none of them felt reckless from the inside. Month 3, Dana told a friend, was clearly just a slow start. Every new business is slow at first. Month 9, it was clearly the seasonal dip, and things would pick back up in spring. Month 16. It was one bad location. Easily fixed with a better spot next quarter. Each explanation was individually plausible. None of them were being weighed against the other. Growing pile of quarters where the same kind of plausible explanation had already failed to come true. There's a specific reason this feels so hard to walk away from. And it's worth naming honestly. Quitting doesn't just mean losing money. It means admitting, to yourself and often to other people, that the original decision was wrong. Continuing to fund it lets you postpone that admission indefinitely. One more quarter at a time, without ever having to say the sentence out loud. The sunk cost fallacy isn't really about protecting money. It's about protecting the story that the original choice was a good one, for as long as possible, at whatever cost that protection requires. Dana finally asked the honest version of the question in year 2, prompted by a friend who'd heard the numbers and asked, simply, if this truck didn't exist yet, and someone pitched you the idea today, exactly as it currently performs, would you fund it? Dana sat with that question for exactly as long as it takes to know an answer you don't want to say out loud. No. Obviously no. Nobody would fund a business that had lost money every month for 2 straight years, starting from scratch, with full knowledge of how it actually performs. That question is the entire fix. And it works because it forcibly removes the sunk cost from the math. It doesn't ask what you've already spent. It asks what you'd spend today, with zero history attached, evaluating only what's actually in front of you right now. Dana closed the truck 2 months later. The immediate feeling wasn't triumph. It was closer to relief mixed with a specific kind of grief for the $8,000. For the 2 extra years of additional losses that number had ballooned into. For the version of the story where it had worked. But the losses stopped. That's the part that actually mattered. Every month after closing was a month that didn't get added to a number that could no longer be unspent. Only prevented from growing further. This test applies to far more than food trucks. A losing investment you're holding purely because selling would mean admitting the loss. A subscription or membership you keep because you already paid for the year. A course. A project. A purchase you keep defending, in ways big and small, because walking away feels like erasing what already happened, instead of what it actually is, the only decision that was ever available to you, which is what happens from here. The test itself doesn't even require a dramatic decision to be useful. It works just as well on small ones. A gym membership you're not using, kept because canceling feels like wasting the months already paid. A stock down 30%. Held not because the fundamentals still look good, but because selling would lock in a loss that, technically, already happened the day the price dropped. Whether you sell today or not. The same one question applies every time. If you didn't already own this, would you buy it today? At today's price? Knowing what you now know. The honest answer is usually faster to arrive at than people expect. Once the past spending is actually removed from the question instead of quietly weighing down one side of it. The money already spent is not part of that decision. It never was. It just felt like it was. Every single time. Right up until someone asked the one question that makes the difference impossible to ignore. If this changed how you think about something you've been holding on to, subscribe, because we'll keep telling these stories the psychology first, the money second, the same way we always have. Same honest stories, same simple truth. See you in the next one.